Welcome back to Market on Close. Shares of SoFi are up 36% on the year, sitting near 3.5-year highs. The lending and financial services company reports its earnings tomorrow morning as expecting earnings per share of 6 cents on revenue of just over $805 million. Over the last 2 years, SoFi has topped EPS estimates 75% of the time and beat revenue estimates 100% of the time. So with all of that said, I do want to bring in Rick Ducat, our lead market technician here for Options Corner, to take a look at some of the technicals on SoFi ahead of their earnings report. Now, Rick, can we start with their chart? What are you observing from them? Like I mentioned, having a really strong performance year to date, but we've certainly seen how quickly things can change this earnings season.
For sure. And, sometimes the scale of the chart can be deceiving. What we're really looking at with this chart is we had that high point in January. Then we saw a 53% decline to the tariff lows in April. And from there, we're up like 145%. So really a pretty dramatic roller coaster type price action here. But for the most part, as you say, like mostly to the upside here in the longer term. If we were to look a little bit more closely at our candle chart here, we can see that the 18 level light green line there represented an old high there that lines up with a volume node according to our yearly volume profile study. That's one notable area. From there, we see our dark green line moving upward. 1966 represents the low point after our recent gap up. We mostly held on to those lows around 20. So around 1950, that's another area. Volume picks up again near 21. And then the highs near 2274. Those are kind of the most notable areas in the shorter term here.
And so as we look at some of the options activity on this, are traders favoring calls, puts? What's the split here?
Yeah, so if we were to look at that kind of area of the chart here, we can see that for the most part here, today's volume was now through the January expiration, 17 to 25 or so in terms of the strike prices that mostly are of interest here. But if we could move along to our second to last chart in that grid there, we can see the call activity for this name here for the August 1st expiration, the expected move 1925 to 2265. That would be about a 8% plus or minus range there. We can see that most of the activity as well between about 16 to 25 there for those calls, open interest there. And we can also see as well the highest activity at that 25 level there. So when we consider the volume for the session here, 192,000 calls traded, 166,000 puts traded, the open interest as well for the month, the next weekly expiration, 233,000, about 7% of the overall market there. So that's our call chart there. If we could advance to our next chart too, on the put side, 14 to 22 is the range in this case here, so quite a bit lower than our expected move there, with the most activity that we saw for those puts at that $20 mark. So some standout levels there to watch.
And did you notice any, with the earnings coming tomorrow, did you see any notable trades or anything like that trading on SoFi today?
So there was a lot of big sweep type trades here, heavy trading at the August 1st, 19.5 and 18 strike puts. 6,000 and 5,000 lot spreads, but they seem like they were opening and closing trades in the same day. So it doesn't seem like it was a longer term opening position, longer term, relatively speaking, of course. But, looking out further, January 26, 2026 and January 2027, the 10 and 12 strike calls, same deal, opening and closing in the same day, much bigger dollar amounts, much bigger scale there here, but kind of the same concept, just extremely short term trades despite the long dated option.
And as far as how it's comparing in the sector, we usually have a chart for us sort of showing how it's performing overall. What does SoFi's performance look like?
Sure. So SoFi is kind of the outlier here. Just really, as we said, the very strong gains that we've seen really eclipse the broader sector, not only in consumer finance, but also the overall financial sector here. There was one interesting story that I saw recently, though, having to do with the GOP budget bill. It puts limits on federal student loans here. So the loans that you can take out through the government are capped, and that could be a big, thing for these private lending companies like SoFi. You can see their SoFi vastly outperforming the overall sector there. But consumer financials, this type of company, is doing better than both the financial sector and the S&P.
And as far as SoFi is looking in terms of analysts and their expectations, are they bullish or bearish on this one going into earnings?
It seems like mostly bullish activity here. And the sector, too, as a whole, we do have one more financial sector chart there. If you were looking on an ancillary play, Visa and MasterCard also have earnings this week, too. So those would be more established players in this overall financial lending space here. But the sector was pretty strong looking so far here. We've seen, the big banks had earnings to kick off earnings season, mostly positive results here. It's pretty tough to bet against the big financial institutions here at this point here. A lot of the deregulatory ideas and the GOP budget bill also coming into focus here as well.
It's certainly something we keep hearing about, Rick. We appreciate you talking to us about SoFi and taking a look at the charts with us ahead of their earnings tomorrow morning.